Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening, and welcome to the global launch of Mission 1.5. We are very excited for you to join us this evening. We are here on the traditional territory of the Lenape, in a room filled with people from all over the world. And we have youth climate activists here. We have government officials here. We have gamers here. We have a group of people gathered who are passionate about the climate crisis. And we have a really unique and different way to solve it. So today is all about sharing. We want to make sure that you are sharing this on social media throughout the evening. We are using the hashtag Mission 1.5. That's hashtag mission, the word mission, the number 1, the word point, and the number 5. I think everyone can probably figure that out. Okay? So please do share throughout the evening. We want to make sure that we get the message out far and wide. So, what is Mission 1.5? What is it about? I would like to invite a climate champion and UN Undersecretary General and United Nations Development Program Administrator, Achim Steiner, to give us some more information. Achim.
Thank you, Samira. Good evening to all of you, and thank you for finding a moment to escape whatever you were doing this afternoon and joining us on something that truly is a moment of a dream come true. We are launching Mission 1.5 here this evening, but there is history to this, as always. And the history is one of both inspiration, a call to action, a new universe of people interacting with issues that they may otherwise never have thought about in those terms, and above all, connecting people. Mission 1.5 is learning from the world of digital and gaming technology. And together with Jude and Playmob and their colleagues, we have tried to identify a different way in which people around the world can not just be spectators when it comes to climate change, not just sit in meetings and be lectured at, be told about the science, be told about the challenges, and often be told about the reasons why we're not acting. This game is putting the future of what happens in your community, in your country, right in the hands of those who will use this game, first of all, to play, because that's what it is all about. Gaming is not about a chore, it's not about listening to others, it's actually about getting involved, getting engaged. And what we try to do is make this gaming and digital technology a way in which not only we could make that whole issue of climate change, which often sounds so abstract, so complicated, so disempowering, something that people actually feel they have a right to, first of all, choose what happens next, and secondly, have options that they can choose from. So Mission 1.5, as you will hear and see a little bit later on, is an attempt to turn the tables. And it was especially in response to the Secretary General's call last year, when he invited the whole world to come to New York and to the General Assembly Hall and stand before the world's public and show whether there is commitment to address what is an unprecedented challenge with an extraordinarily short time window in which to act. So here we are in New York City, but actually connected to what is possibly a 2.7 billion people large population of people who are engaged in gaming. Something I did not know before. I learned from Jude. And it is something that I think gives us a sense of, first of all, possibility of connecting with people. And yes, it's a lot of young people, but actually for those of you who think that young is a precondition for gaming, take a second look, because most gamers are actually not 15, 12, or 10 years old. They're a little bit older. So this is also a platform that allows us, and this is the second really interesting thing about Mission 1.5, if indeed we get millions and millions of people to play this game, we will possibly end up with the largest public opinion poll or survey ever undertaken on what it is that people would do if they were in charge of deciding what happens next. And that is really where this game moves from just being a game to also something that can inform what happens next in the world of politics and of national governments. Because that data is something that we will make available to politicians, to parliamentarians, to heads of government and heads of state to say, do you want to know how your citizens decided they would act if they were in charge? So, friends, this is a game, but it's about something extremely serious. But it is also an opportunity to give voice to many of those who often in meetings and in sessions that we find ourselves in feel voiceless. And, you know, it's not the solution and the be-all and end-all in this discussion, but it is a really exciting new experiment where we in the United Nations, and we were just talking to the ambassador, you know, often we sit in conference rooms and it is very difficult to transact something that actually is taking place in the virtual space. UNDP is proud, in response to the Secretary General's call to the world to take climate action to a new level, to have found a partnership with creative, committed people in the world of gaming, and hopefully having added a platform in which voices of so many more people will not only be heard, but will be acted on. And you know how important this is? Because as we sit here this evening in New York, we are preparing for a meeting that will take place in Glasgow, the United Kingdom, later this year. It's called the COP26, the Conference of the Parties of the Climate Convention. It is where the world will have to prove that that which they agreed in the year 2015, namely an agreement to act together on addressing climate change, would introduce a higher level of ambition every 5 years in order to make sure that that which we commit to doing would actually keep pace with the science and the timeline that we have left, and it is very short. I want to also take advantage of this fantastic venue here to remind you that there are many countries that right now are rewriting their climate strategies. Peru, for example. Peru was one of the first 20 countries to ratify the Paris Agreement, and at this point Peru should appear on the walls around us here. Choreography. And we are very proud to be working with Peru because we made a pledge when the Secretary General called on the world to come to New York last September as UNDP to support 100 countries in not only reviewing and revising their national climate strategies, but actually to look for where is there room for ambition, for higher levels of ambition. Because that is the promise we made to each other as nations in Paris in 2015. And it is now something that the world will look very carefully whether we can deliver on that. As countries, as communities, as people. And you know, at the end of the day, countries are not abstracts. They are composed of people just like you and I. And we know politicians. They ultimately follow where people lead. So this is the year in which hopefully this game joins so many other networks, groups and movements in actually giving politicians the courage to lead. And as we prepared for this launch, and this is my last remark, we reached out to many of our country teams in UNDP, and we were amazed by the excitement and the energy that this new platform was generating. And you will hear in a moment some of the messages that they have also recorded in preparation for this launch. I hope it gives you a sense of the excitement, the possibilities, and perhaps an unprecedented number of people being able to be heard, because what they will vote in terms of their choices, we will record and we will broadcast to the world. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you so much, Achim, for those remarks and providing some context on the climate crisis and what we have at stake. Now, because you mentioned this is a game, it's really important to hear from the gaming community. And so we have with us a key partner here today from PlayMob, the CEO, Jude Ower. We would love for you to make some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good evening. It's a little bit surreal. It's happening. But I want to say a big thank you to UNDP, because I think what you're doing is very brave and very bold. You're doing something completely unique, and believing in the games industry and what gamers can do is really, really special. And thank you for believing in us, because this is such a huge important task and topic. It's been an incredible past few months working on this, and we just can't wait to deliver this on a global scale, which is what this is about tonight, and unlock the potential of gaming for the planet. I just want to say a big thank you as well to the PlayMob team, who have just been working superhuman hours and efforts to make this happen as well. So our work here is just getting started, because now we're just we just can't wait to reach the rest of the world. So I wanted to start by trying to kind of demystify gaming a little bit. Gaming is often misunderstood, so I've got a few facts that I want to share about the industry and what it's all about. So as Akim said, there's 2.7 billion people play games on the planet. That's almost a third of the global population. They play for 16 billion hours per week. Yep. Collectively. And when they play, they're 98% engaged. They're not multitasking, they're not multi-screening. They've got to concentrate on the screen, because they might get taken down by a zombie. So they've got to be focused. So one of my favourite researchers, Jane McGonigal, who's a games researcher, quoted in 2010 that at the time we were spending 3 billion hours per week playing games. And she said if we can get to 21 billion hours, we can start to solve some of the world's most pressing problems, like climate change, poverty and obesity. And so now we're at 16 billion hours. We're at a tipping point. We're close to that tipping point of making real change through gaming. The industry is also bigger than film and music combined. That's really powerful. It's worth $140 billion, and it's grown at about 8% year on year. One of the fastest growing regions for gaming is Africa and the Middle East. And this is closely followed by India and South America. And the reason for this is because we've got more access to smartphones and Wi-Fi, so more people can play. And actually, if you look at gaming in the App Store, gaming is the #1 category. And it's actually providing Apple with 70% of their revenue. Yep. So gaming is also an incredibly powerful tool to raise awareness and educate and to inspire change. So in games, when we play, there's cause and effect. We can see the consequences of our actions. And in Mission 1.5, what we'll see is the impact of policies on climate change. And games are also a two-way communication tool. They're giving a voice to everybody and understanding what people really care about. So games can make a huge difference. And we've seen this with the work that we do every single day. And actually, we did some research to look at how many games are supporting the global goals. And there's over 200 games in the market now, supporting them by either raising awareness, fundraising, or pledging for change. So when we tested Mission 1.5 last year in the UK, we got over 1 million votes in only 4 weeks. So our shared goal with UNDP and the supporters is that we want to reach millions of people to inspire action for climate change and do this quickly. So we need your help to play, vote and share. This is one of the most important games of our time, and we need to now play for our lives. So what all this shows is that now is the time to leverage gaming, to reach a mass audience, to give a voice to everybody from all corners of the planet. So no medium can do this, can do what gaming can do at such scale and speed. And as Akim said, we need to act quickly, and this is what games can do. So this is our planet, and we only have one. So if we don't save it, then it's game over. So just to end, I wanted to say this is a real historical moment, combining the biggest platform of our time with the biggest issue of our time. So we really hope you enjoy our small but mighty gaming experience, and come and join us on a journey to watch as votes start to roll in and we start to make some real change. So if this is the decade for action, then let's play, vote and make a difference. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jude, for those remarks. And I was surprised myself to find out about some of those statistics about gaming. I think many of us didn't realize the power that the gaming industry can really have. Next, unfortunately, we had Miss Yemi Alade, Nigerian music star, to join us this evening, but unfortunately, due to extreme weather in Lagos, she was not able to attend today, which is a shame. I'm a big fan of her music. But we do have a video message that she would like to share, so hopefully we can get that up for you.
My name is Yemi Alade, and I'm so excited to hear what climate action matters to most people around the world, especially my fellow Nigerians. Mission 1.5 is going to connect people globally on something that cannot be ignored anymore. The time to act is now. Let's save planet Earth. Let's save her now.
Thank you to Yemi for that. And okay, so we've done some talking, but who's ready to actually play the game? Yes, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. Hopefully you have your phones with you. So we're gonna ask you to bring them out. I can grab your phone. Okay, yeah, get your phone. Everyone get your phone out. But to walk us through this and to give us a bit more information, we have a climate superstar here with us. UNDP Senior Advisor on Climate Change, Cassie Flynn.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We are just thrilled to be able to share all of this with you. As the UNDP administrator said, this is a key moment in history. This is a moment where governments around the world are challenged with making bold decisions on climate change. And it's these decisions that are going to make or break our future. And we also know that young people have a lot to say. And people are anxious and people are worried. And people are taking to the streets, people are having walkouts, they're having sit-ins, because they want to ensure that their voices are heard. And that's very much what Mission 1.5 is about. It's about that no matter where you are, no matter who you are, you can learn about climate solutions and you can make your voice heard. It is the people's climate vote. So today, we are going to walk through this vote, and then you all are going to be able to play. I am so excited. So can we play here we go. Great. So here's what it is. This is going to give you an idea of what it looks like. We're not going to go through it word for word because we don't want to give you all the answers before you play. Every single part of this derives from a partnership with scientists, with game developers, with young people about what are the solutions that can most impact the world today. And so there's 6 categories. We have transport, we have nature, we have energy, we have protecting people, we have farms and food. We have these, pretty much every single one of these themes represents one of the major areas that governments must make decisions on. And so when you play, you get the opportunity to go into one of these categories and try to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees. You're the head of state, you're the policymaker, you're the world leader, you get to decide what's going to happen. And so you get posed a question, and you get 3 answers. Each of these answers represents something that is ideal for addressing the climate crisis. You have one that's medium, one that's not quite there, but really pretty good. And then you have one that, well, we would prefer you do not pick. And you get points. You get points for this. And all of these points add up, and in the end, you get to see if you kept global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees. But the really important part of this is as you are learning for each of these categories, you get to vote for real. So you learn about these solutions and you make sure that you understand what they are, and then you get asked a question per category that says, all right, what would you do? What would you do if you had to make the policy choice on this area? And then once you do that, our job is to work with our partners at Oxford University. We've got a whole set of pollsters there. They're helping us to compile all of this data, helping us to take a look at it, make sure we have a robust data set that we can then turn into tailored reports, country by country. So we can put a report on a world leader's desk that says, hey, 83% of your population really want to protect the ocean. 90% of your population wants to make sure that we have early warning systems. It's a way to help inform world leaders at this critical moment, sometimes encourage them, and let's be honest, sometimes give a few a push, to make sure that they know that every person is heard as they are making these decisions. So, here we go. Got your phones? All right, go to newyork.mission1.5.org, or you can use this QR code. And to use this QR code, you just put your camera up at it. You don't have to take a photo. Just open your camera, point it at the QR code, and then it should pop up. How you doing? We good? We handled QR codes? Lou has it. Lou has it. We got it? All right. You're off and running. Start your first category. See how you do. The Wi-Fi. Good question. It is Lightbox 5G. The password is Midtown New York, all lowercase. NYC. Midtown NYC, all lowercase, is the Wi-Fi. How we doing? I was just going to see if we could get some music while people play. All right. How's everybody doing? Are you keeping global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees? And when you get asked that vote question, it is a real vote. So you are some of the first people in the world to be actually casting your votes as a part of Mission 1.5. And also, for those of you who prefer a different language, just to let you know, on the website, it is available in 6 different languages around the world. Yes, and you can tweet your results. Yeah, you can. You can, there should be, oh. How's everybody doing? Yeah? How'd you all do? Yeah, maybe. All right, so let's take a look. Up on the walls, you can see how our room voted. These are all of the results for everybody in this room. If you played transport, energy, farms and food, nature, protecting people, and green economy, you can see what some of the most popular options were. So it looks like we have a lot of fans of climate-friendly farming techniques, got a lot of fans of renewable energy. Transit, got some solid showings there. Nature, supporting local communities, indigenous peoples, and women. Building infrastructure to protect lives and livelihoods. Making companies pay for their pollution. These are exactly the types of answers that will land on policymakers' desks. They will see this according to the populations of their country. So this is essentially an example of what they will get, and the power of this information, and the power of collecting these voices to be able to drive climate solutions today and tomorrow. So how many of you were climate champions? All right, woo! Okay, thank you very much. This has been such a pleasure to share this with you. We are so thrilled. You are all the first people in the world to really vote as a part of this, and please do tell everyone you know, because we are so thrilled that this can drive a new era of climate action for everywhere around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassie, and thank you everyone for playing along with us tonight. But we want to hear from you now. We want to get an idea of what Mission 1.5 means to you, and to some of you in particular that we've asked tonight. So first, I'd like to ask Her Excellency Ms. Tulmiza Hussein, Ambassador from the Maldives, to tell us a little bit about what you think about Mission 1.5.
Thank you, Samira, and good evening, everyone. Thank you, Akim, for having me here. We need to make sure our leaders, global leaders, hear what people are saying around the world, what people really want. Because we had the Paris Agreement recently, which is the agreement to limit the temperature rise, and only 6 countries out of all the countries in the world, only 6 countries are on track to meet their commitments under the Paris Agreement. So we are really nowhere near where we need to be. So these kind of activities and actions to energize people, to mobilize people, to engage people is ever more important. The good news is that we are still within the window of opportunity to act on climate, to own the climate emergency that we have created it, to find solutions and to address it. In the Maldives, in the last 2 decades, in the last 10 years, twice, we have mobilized people to restore democracy in the country against all odds. Youth and young and old people were out on the streets, people were advocating online, and we managed to bring change twice, to root out a dictatorship, to root out a corrupt government and bring the change we want and to restore democracy in our country. And if we can bring that kind of energy to the climate movement, we can definitely bring the change we want around the world. So when we had the elections in 2018 and also in 2012, we were able to have 90% of people come out and cast their vote. So this game is kind of applications that actually gives the message to the decision makers that this is what your constituents are saying. And politicians do what their constituents say. So you need to not just play this game, but also you need to go to the ballot box to make the difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. You're absolutely right. We have to make our voices heard. Next, I would like to ask the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, Ms. Jayatma Wickramanayake, to come up and say a few words about Mission 1.5. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samira. Thank you. There's only a limited number of people in New York who can pronounce my name properly, so kudos to that. I really can't focus because I got a couple of 700s on the game. I can't wait to go back and play the game again so that I can get all thousands. I'm so competitive. But thanks, Akim. Thank you really for having me here, having the youth climate activists here, really bringing all of us together behind Mission 1.5, and really it is the mission of our lives. We are all behind you, we are all behind the cause, and we are all here as one to really push through and to make sure that we all keep to the promise of the Paris Agreement. So for me, there are two things that are important for the constituency that I work with, which is young people. I'm the advisor to the Secretary General on youth issues, but I have my own advisor who is my 18-year-old sister. And she tells me that there are two types of young people, and this is a very simplistic explanation of the very diverse young people we have in the world today. She says there are activists and there are slacktivists. She says that I am an activist because when I was in university, I would go to street protests, I would get arrested, I would, all kinds of stuff to be very vocal and to talk about the issues that I care about. And she's someone who would sit on the couch and be on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram all day, but still use social media to talk about the issues that she cares about. And I think Mission 1.5 and the game here today is a way to get those slacktivists like my sister to become activists. And that's why I love this. I think this gives amount of information that it gives, the amount of right information that it gives, especially to the young people who will be playing the game, is going to be crucial for us to recruit more troops for Fridays for Future, for the Zero Hour, and for all the amazing youth-led climate movements that are happening around the world. Number two is there is a huge gap in the implementation of the Paris Agreement in some areas, but also particularly in the area of ACE, which is Action for Climate Empowerment, including climate education. Italy is the only country who made climate education mandatory, and we're trying to get more and more countries to include climate education in their educational curriculums. But we know that it's going to take time. So initiatives like this actually help young people to get the information they need and to learn about the climate crisis, and to also learn this very specific and tangible ways that they can contribute, even though they might not necessarily be able to vote. So for me, this is so important, and we are so excited to have the game also at the ECOSOC Youth Forum and the UN 75 celebrations with the Secretary General and young people later in March. And really, congratulations once again, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for sharing that message with us. And speaking of young people, we want to make sure we also speak to those activists that find this to be very important for the movement. So we have Natalie Sweet here with us from Zero Hour, and she would also like to make a few remarks as well. Please.
Thank you so much. I think it's safe to say that I'm one of the younger section of people in this room, but it's really great to see so many people here for such an important cause. I just also played this game for the second time today. Really amazing. It was nice to get all those thousands after failing those SAT practice tests, but that's okay. It's really, really great. At least but in all seriousness, it's really important to have knowledge that matters. And knowledge that matters about the climate crisis is one of the biggest things that Zero Hour tries to uplift. My name is Natalie Sweet. I'm the communications director for Zero Hour. I've been working with this wonderful organization for almost 2 years now. And at the foundation of what we do, there's always been working through a lens of intersectionality and education. What I found through this game is that there are so many different ways that we can mobilize people, and one of the best ways to do it is by giving the youth a voice. By empowering those 2.7 billion gamers, that's an incredible statistic, I didn't know that, to actually vote and have their issues seen by policymakers. Something I really particularly enjoyed while watching this game, while playing this game, was the lens of intersectionality that was put into this game and the way that we view the climate crisis and how it's changing. There's a certain lens which most people and most policymakers are seeing the climate crisis, maybe sort of just through the natural lens. And when I saw questions about women in education and different minorities in different frontline communities that 0 Hour tries to uplift through our campaigns, like the Getting to the Roots campaign, which is the education campaign, it's really empowering to see the UNDP and other organizations step up and include these groups in the picture. At 0 Hour, we try to uplift everyone's voices, and by empowering youth to have their decisions, their choices seen by policymakers is one of the best ways we can all combat the climate crisis. So I want to say a thank you. Thank you to the UNDP for taking on this initiative. Thank you to PlayMob for helping make this possible, and to all the professors at Oxford University who are compiling the data, and everyone in this room today and beyond. This is an amazing step to take the necessary actions for the climate crisis. We need to keep the emissions below 1.5 degrees Celsius, and I'm really confident that this is one of the biggest first steps we can do by showing policymakers that our voices matter. Thank you.
I just want to give another round of applause for the youth climate activists over the last year that have just been amazing, putting in the work. Yes, thank you so much. So you mentioned 1.5 degrees, and we call this Mission 1.5, and it's really about standing behind the science. The science is really key to this. And we want to ask Rania Beatrice, who's here from March for Science, to talk a little bit more about why that's important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming, and thank you for inviting us here. My name is Rania. I'm a senior advisor for March for Science. And as our name would suggest, we work really, really hard to push science-based policies in the United States and around the world. We're one of the biggest global grassroots organizations, and when I get to speak at these kinds of things, I like to tell on myself a little bit, and there's a reason, I promise, it's not just self-deprecation. I'm not a scientist. I always wished that I was. Both of my brothers are, and I'm insanely jealous all of the time. But having two genius brother scientists always made me feel like an imposter. Anybody ever had imposter syndrome? Anybody? Raise your hand. We're among friends here. Yes. Yes. So I have struggled and struggled and struggled with this, and honestly, it's March for Science that showed me that every one of our voices matters, even if we're not scientists, even if we're not educators, even if we're not insert label here. And that's what we've built in March for Science. We have artists and activists, and yes, of course, scientists, who I am envious of, as I mentioned. And we're really, really trying to do something, to do everything that we can to meet people where they are. So recently, actually in Madrid at COP25, we launched our Science Not Silence campaign, which focuses specifically on the IPCC 1.5 degree report. So imagine our excitement when I got a call from Cassie asking March for Science to partner on this amazing, wonderfully important mission. Of course, we said yes, and did little high fives and dances in the office and whatnot, because we're very excited. But most importantly here is this is another entry point, right? It's another way to reach people who may not feel like they have a place in this space, who may not think they're smart enough or knowledgeable enough or know enough to make a difference. And what's even more exciting that I kind of just hit me while we were playing. I'd looked at the game before and played it before, but looking at it again today, I was like, oh, it really encourages us to drill down and dig into our communities. We're not talking about what's happening everywhere, because that's a little daunting, right? It is. We're talking about our communities. What a beautiful, amazing, wonderful gift UNDP has given us in this game. And we're, like I said, just so thrilled and excited to be partners on this mission, and just really look forward to the work ahead and working with all of you to really spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronnie, and you're absolutely right. We do have to bring these communities together for this. It will take everyone. And finally, I also want to hear from the gaming community, right? It's really important that we bring in this other group of people that might not talk about climate change as much into the mix, too. So I'd like to invite Margaret Wallace, who's here from Games for Change, to talk a little bit more about why it's important in terms of gaming.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So yes, I'm Margaret Wallace, and I am the general manager at the Games for Change Accelerator, which is the venture portion of Games for Change. Susanna Pollack, who is the president of Games for Change, wasn't able to make it, so she sends her regards. And I'm going to speak a little bit about Games for Change and what we do, and then I'm going to talk about the game, which is what I'm really excited about, and also telling you about Games for Change. We are a New York-based organization, and we have been around since 2004, and Games for Change, their primary mission is to drive real-world impact through gaming. And so I can't imagine a better example than Mission 1.5 to really prove the point that games really do have the potential to reach millions of people. Games are essentially sandboxes for all kinds of exploration, and so there are often no better ways to allow people to discover and play and connect with other people who have similar interests. The Games for Change Accelerator is the venture portion of Games for Change, and we invest in companies that are working at the intersection of video games or gaming and social impact. And one thing that, I've been in the games industry for 20 years, and one thing that I've been really amazed at is how much just about every industry and every endeavor in one way or another uses games or game mechanics, whether it's healthcare, finance, to raise awareness around climate change. Games for Change itself holds a yearly festival in New York City. The festival brings together well over 1,000 people from all over the world who come to New York City every year to present a network around games that do have some kind of social impact component. And in addition to that, Games for Change has game jams, and we also have we work with students and workshops. I was just in Sao Paulo for Sao Paulo Play Week, where we also held the festival there. Now on to the game. So as somebody who's made games, made many games, this for me brings home so many important elements. First of all, the game itself is incredibly approachable. And what I really love about what you've done is, and I really mean this, is you've struck a balance between it being approachable, but also not talking down to the viewer. So the questions are interesting and challenging. It's something that really brings you along where you really want to learn. And then I really felt like you did a really wonderful job, since games are all about moment-to-moment interaction. One thing that's amazing about games is that you can really measure just about anything, and believe me, we do in the games industry. And you really do tie the moment-to-moment interaction to a result and to an immediate impact. So every time I answered a question, I really wanted to see how I did, and it really moved me. So I just want to commend you on that. That's not an easy thing to do. Games are a mix of art and science in a lot of ways. And then, of course, the other thing I really love about the game, and for me, it's something my entire career I've dreamt of doing in games that I've made, because my career started out working in virtual pets. So I did little dogs and cats running on screens where people thought their pets were real. But what you did, there are a lot of games out there that deal with scientific themes or themes around environmental issues, but they aren't really tied to actual data. and they don't close the loop and send that information back to people, policymakers in this case, who can really make a difference. And close the loop between the population out there and people who are taking that information and can actually create actionable agendas. So I really am very moved by what you've done, and I really want to commend you. And I think the game is wonderful. So thank you. Thank you for the effort, and thank you for all of your work.
Thank you so much for those remarks as well. It really is a unique and different opportunity, unlike anything we've done before. So we've heard from some people in the room, but we also have some messages from those that are not in the room as well. So let's take a look at some of those messages.
Climate change.
We are running out of time when it comes to climate change.
It's no longer enough to talk about climate change. We have to do something.
We're dangerously close to surpassing the global temperature rise of 1.5 degrees.
That's the level that keeps us safe.
We are already feeling the impacts. Extreme weather, wildfires, floods, droughts.
Farms are losing food, wells are losing water.
Our climate is a vulnerable soil of this crisis. We all need to work together to help address the climate crisis.
It is time to tell world leaders the solutions that we want.
Under the Paris Agreement, governments right now are making decisions about the climate crisis.
It's up to us, every single one of us, to make sure they make the right decision.
And there's a great way for you to do that. Go to mission1.5.org.
UNDP is launching Mission 1.5.
All you gotta do is go to mission1.5.org.
Go to mission1.5.org.
Mission 1.5.org right now. And cast your votes. Let the government hear our voices.
And that vote will be heard. Your vote will be shared with world leaders, so that we can all band together and we can do our part to protect this planet.
Thank you so much. And I realize, there is somebody in the audience that was in the video. We have Saad in the back, one of our youth climbers, not just those that are outside. Thank you. But yeah, so the point is that we do want to share this, and we want to make sure that people know about it. So again, remember the hashtag, and please do share far and wide. We also want to give a strong thank you to our partners. They are, you can see them around you right now. This would not have been possible without them. This took a lot of time and effort, and we really appreciate their support in getting this done. We also want to thank all of our country offices that have been invaluable in helping us get this off the ground and sharing this with so many communities around the world. You can see them around us right now. A round of applause, please, for all of them for their support. They're ensuring that this game gets out to as many people around the world as possible. Even if there's language issues, we want to make sure we can reach as many communities as possible to be inclusive. If they have internet access issues, we want to make sure we can reach those communities as well. We want to get this far and wide so that we can hear everyone's voices. It's really important. So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really exciting. We hope you've had a good time. We hope that you think this game is fun and interesting and engaging, and it's the first step to taking more climate action in your lives. Please share it far and wide, hashtag Mission 1.5. We want to welcome all of you to join us for a reception afterwards downstairs. Thank you so much, and go play.